Hey guys, we have a new episode this week, but unfortunately we had I had some issues with the recording, so it's at a weird angle because I have my laptop for backup for the first half now, but let me know what you think. Enjoy. Welcome to a new episode of the podcast. It's the first live, not live, in-person one in a while. I'm with,
Roxanne Barley.
and we met over Facebook about some of the current political ice issues, but she also got interested in the cryptids going through the channel. So what
hmm
do you want to talk about first?
It doesn't matter, whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm always really serious about the issues regarding what's going on in the world, especially when it comes to indigenous communities and the issues that we face. You don't hear a lot of people talking about it. You don't hear a lot of people representing it. So I'm trying to do my part here in the Yuma County to be that voice. So
Okay.
that's what I'm doing. But with the cryptoids too, my late husband was always into Sasquatch and always into Bigfoot stories and always
Hmm.
believed in it. And we would laugh and, I tease him about it. It's not real. The Loch Ness monster is real. So it is kind of like a little playful debate. But he was always into Egyptian stories and history. So I kind of have that information. I just based on on the knowledge that he provided me.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
Um,
big broad band of just learning different aspects and being open to having that ability to learn.
mhm. Yeah, I got into it. There was a show on Disney called So Weird that every episode was kind of something new, and they had a Bigfoot one. And listening to podcasts and other stories, there's a lot of connections to the natives here in the U.S.
Definitely, definitely. The more that you dig behind it and you realize just how true the narrative is and how we were here first.
Hmm.
It's based there. You can't deny it.
Yeah,
It's
it's a mixture of things. But they say the Aztecs and Mayans could have
hmm
moved up, and then you have the land bridge, and it would be kind of like that makes there's I think it's Navajo that's very interesting because some of the native other tribes around here say they kind of just appeared one day, and then there's a story of a tribe up north by Canada that the people around them say they disappeared overnight.
hmm
So could they have migrated down because there are similarities in language and stuff.
Even the story behind the Shiprock Mountain, how they say that that's how they carried that was a bird and it, transformed into carrying the people out from the Badlands and putting them where they're at now. So, and it had that formation of the Shiprock. I mean, my daughter and her father's family lives in the area, so, and I resided there for a few months of my life. So I really feel a strong connection to that area too.
I'm just
But
taking
you're
a
definitely
shit
right
water down here.
about the history there.
Yeah, one area a lot of people debate over because the Smithsonian's involved is the red-headed giants in the Lovelock Caves.
hmm
They could be Bigfoots or more just biblical red-headed giants. It's interesting. Have you heard about that one?
I have not, but I'm more than interested. I mean, more than willing to hear more about it, and I wouldn't put it past it. And it's like I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't be like, oh no, that's not true. I'd be willing to listen and be like, okay, and just like take everything in and compare it to all the other stories that I've heard. And like I said, I wouldn't put it past it. There's so many things that we are so unaware of on a daily basis from the past, current, and future. So I wouldn't put it past it.
Yeah, my understanding was that the tribe up there, I don't remember the name, unfortunately, that they were warring with a tribe of giant humanoids, and they went to the cave they were at and like put a bunch of wood, and then lit on fire and kind of smoked them out, killed them
Oh wow.
in a sense. And then somebody heard the story, and then they sent somebody to look, but he wasn't qualified, and then that gets to the whole conspiracy of them hiding giant bones from other sites
They are
across the U.S.
resurfacing, aren't they? I mean, some of them, archaeologists are finding, um, discovering bones in that size, massive size.
Hmm.
So it's out of my scope area. Like I said, though, so many things that we're so unaware of. It's a possibility. So
Yeah.
definitely, uh, I wouldn't put doubt in it,
Yeah,
so to
I
say.
definitely I don't believe in like Tataria mud flood stuff, but I think there's a lot of our history that we really don't know.
hmm
Through like every culture, things get lost.
Definitely, definitely. For my tribe, we actually didn't believe in writing history down.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't put that into wording, that wasn't our way. We always carried things through word of mouth and tradition and following and making sure that things went, according to how they were supposed to go. And that went on for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until the late 1800s where you actually hear it mentioned of Kokopah people. So, and from that point on, it's where you start getting a little bit of stories of just people describing us, how we came to where we are right now, and that history, previously before that, nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are.
Yeah. I have to look into more. I'm not don't know too much of the history
hmm
of
It's
around here. I grew up in Yuma, but I don't know much about it. That's kind of why I want to explore the state a lot more.
That's good. I think that's really good. It starts, it shows initiative. It shows an eager yearning to learn,
Mm-hmm.
which is really good. I love learning. I'm always trying to encourage kids to go to school or do the education and go to college. Sometimes it's not for them, and that's okay because the pressure in high school is like really intense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the same when you and I went to high school. It was a lot different, and people learning differently. Sorry, I don't know what that was.
No, I think it's just my notifications going off.
Oh, okay.
I just check to make sure what it is. If it's not a message, I just ignore it.
Okay. But yeah, that was I like I said, I love learning.
Mm-hmm.
So this opportunity to learn more about your side, your point of view on aspects and things. That's why when you and I first encountered on Facebook, it was a debate and trying to learn from one another and talking about the land. That's what I was talking, referencing to. I know my people and I know a little bit of the history,
Yeah, I
not
was
all of it.
talking more grander scope of just, U.S., native
hmm
history.
Yeah, no, it's different in every area. Every
Mm-hmm.
area had their own war. Every area had their own, set of groups that they communicated with and um, connected with very, very long time ago. And that history is there. It's just you have to really look into and see who still remembers that time of life.
So what is your stance on that ice and can that dive into that a bit?
Okay, with that, a lot of people might be confused. I do support law and order. I have a respect for authority. However, I don't agree with the tactics that they're carrying it out with. There's a certain standard and integrity that needs to be respected and needs to be upheld. And these agents that represent ICE are not doing it. So I feel it is an individual case that how these people are reacting. Not all cops are bad cops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, same method. And the reason why I say that is because I have experience in law enforcement. I'm able to speak on both sides of the courtroom, the court system. I've been, a defendant. I've been, on the state side or what are they called? Defendant,
The prosecutor?
prosecutor, been on both sides, been a victim, been a criminal. So I have a very different point of view and experience going through all that versus somebody that's always just been law abiding, hasn't been to jail, hasn't had the experience of what it's like to be in handcuffs or to be the one answering the phone call when somebody has an emergency or to even have that training to your life is on the line when you're an officer.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to have all those kinds of experience. So that's why I speak the way I speak. I don't say these things because I don't know. I say these things because I have a little bit of knowledge and information behind it.
Yeah,
So with that, I mean, that's why I'm saying how the way these ICE agents are conducting themselves, they're not very professional. They're not upholding the true identity of the badge. And they're taking it to the extreme by actually just being being allowed to be who they really are, which is assertive, aggressive, and just on point with the mission, which is can go either way. Their mission is to get the bad people out, right? At no cost and no point. But that could also mean somebody could actually come in here right now, this very moment, and question our, citizenship. I don't think that's right because they don't have probable cause, in my perspective. But for them to come in here and question, and I provide a valid ID, which would be a tribal ID, and then he says, this looks fake. I'm not going to accept this. And then takes me anyway. Do you think that's fair? I don't.
No.
I don't. And that's what's happening. Not a lot of people want to see that part. They just want to see, well, they're coming in after the criminals. The point is that they can't tell who the criminal is just based on paper. Do you understand?
Yeah,
That they have a warrant out for a person, they've studied a person, maybe looked at where their whereabouts are at, and trying to conduct it in that way, you would think. But how the way these people are going, they got a 3,000, person quota that they need to reach every day under Stephen Miller. So that's why they're just gathering everybody and counting the numbers. This is how many people we got, and then we'll go by individually to really verify. You know what? I don't know. I'm gonna send them down to the station to actually where they can sit down, look at the computer, and look them up and actually verify that process, that due process. But people are coming out and saying, yeah, that's what's happening, but it's not taking, the 20 within the 24-hour time frame. It's taking longer. It goes for weeks and days, and in the meantime, when they're waiting, they're experiencing the dehumanization of not getting their food, not having their phone calls, whatever it is that you can imagine is happening.
mm-hmm.
So that's what I stand up against. Not about, oh, they just need to do their job. Right, they do, but they need to do it with integrity. They need to uphold the true meaning behind it and learning the difference between what a Border Patrol agent is and versus what an ICE agent is versus what a police officer is, right?
Mm-hmm.
They all have different duties and different jobs to uphold. So therefore, each one needs to be in communication with one another, right, in order to work together to get the job done. But if somebody is going in gung ho about it and say, no, we're going to rattle all these people up, we're going to do this, we're going to storm the streets, we're going to go home to home, we're going to go door to door. This is what we're going to do, whether you like it or not. And I need the police to back me up. And there they are. They go because it's brothers in arms. It's that connection that is also a family, that police force. When you're a part of it, you have to protect each other because of that oath that you take when you go through that system. When you take that route, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many underlyings between law enforcement that people don't take the time to understand. Or on top of that, law enforcement has to protect themselves so people don't understand what they go through because it's officer safety.
Mm-hmm.
So it also goes hand in hand. I can see the whole story and sit back and just watch and analyze and think, okay, I can see how they justify, Renee Good. I can see how they can justify it. Though for those words, for the fear of my life and the safety of others, as long as you have that written in your report, you're justified. And you can prove it without unreasonable doubt that that was what happened. Unreasonable doubt, meaning that anybody who comes in and looks at the case and sees it knows for a fact that based on this officer's words, that is exactly what happened. Yes, that's what happened. I see it, no doubt, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you got somebody that says, wait a minute, that doesn't look like it's justified to me. I can see your point, but you see the wheel turn the other way, and then you think he had a phone in his hand while had a weapon in his other one. What about long guns, safety? They talk about the three accidental when a gun goes off, accidental, intentional, and I forgot the other one. But there's training when you have those, when you take that responsibility of owning a gun. A lot of things that you have to look back, just take a step back and look further, So it's different. Recently, there was artwork on my Facebook page that depicted the Cocopah symbol with the spear towards an ice agent. And to me, it's art. I loved it
Hmm.
because being Kokopah, this man right here, this is my tribal seal. Take it off here. Show the camera. But that is my tribal seal. And I know the artists that got together and drew this. So I know the message that lies behind it. This is the land of the Kokopah people. We are the river people. This is how we descend along the river and where we reside. So for somebody like an ICE agent to come onto the reservation where we live this whole time and to say that we are illegal and to question our status, that's what that picture meant to me, to put that stop, to put stop to the threat. And that's exactly how these officers are. That's how they think. You have to stop the threat. As long as they can justify what the threat is, then they go forward. And a lot of these times, these cases that are incidents that are happening with individuals out there, they're not justifiable, but they hide behind that line. So there's a lot that I look at, and that's why I stand up against their tactics. It's the tactics that I don't agree with. And another thing is too is that I see that everybody's making, raising questions and they don't want ICE, but nobody's taking the time to say, well, let's look at the process on getting these people citizenship then. Why is it taking so long? What is it that that department needs in order for them to get the process to go through? How much of a vetting process is it? Can that be looked at? Can we send people to go work there? Can we send more help to get these people processed so that way we don't have all these people who are coming here illegally? There are different ways and different methods. You just have to sit back and look at the problem, step back and look. Why are they coming over? Because they're seeking asylum? Because for whatever reason they're in fear of their life, they're in danger, they're looking for a better place. However it is, I don't know because I've always lived here, so I will never know what it's like for them to come over and what they see on that side. Do you?
No.
Would you know that? Would anybody else know that? That's always lived where they're at all times. Would they know what it's like to be on that other side of the wall? I don't know. So I can't say. But from my perspective, this is what I see. And that's all I do is I try to help people just step back and look, you know, take a time, take a moment to just listen. And I appreciate you doing that because I think that's how we got to where we're at right now, right?
Hmm.
That we just stop to listen to one another and have that mutual respect. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have your opinion and my opinion. It's okay. We're not always going to get along. That's fine. But as long as we can come together with a common ground and then move forward, that's my goal.
Hmm. Yeah, I think in political, a lot of people kind of um, lost sight of what the center is. I've always kind of considered
Definitely.
myself a little right leaning, but a little in the center of myself. And I think temperatures are high because you had a lot of on the Biden, a lot of people coming over,
Mm-hmm.
which was a failure on them. And then you had a lot of the stories coming out of the um, a lot of illegals, harming people and
Mm-hmm.
unaliving them. So I think a lot of people are just at the point when they don't care. They just want them gone,
Mm-hmm.
which leads to bad things. But also, I think there's a lot of people on the other side lobbying as freedom fighters
Mm-hmm.
because for a decade they've heard Trump is evil, and I don't think he's half as bad as people claim he is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like him, but I don't think he's Hitler or anything like that. Um, at the end of the day, they are just trying to do their job, which is to
Mm-hmm.
get rid of the illegals, which is why, a lot of people voted for Trump. Um, Sorry, I have ADD, so I
That's
lost my
okay.
train of thought. So I think we are just a bit of a boiling point,
Mm-hmm.
but I do see the hypocrisy a little bit because they called Obama the deporter in chief. I think statistically, he's deported more people
Mm-hmm.
than Trump has yet, but I think a lot of those counted as people who were turned away at the border.
Oh.
But even in Trump's first term, they brought up the whole cages and kids is in cages,
Mm-hmm.
but it was Obama that built them. He's just using them. But the argument only goes one way, that he's bad for using it,
Mm-hmm.
but Obama wasn't bad for building it. So I think it's just viewpoints, it's two
Definitely.
extremes right now.
And I'm at that point to where I'm openly admitting that I don't know much as far as like that part, because everybody has a life, right?
Hmm.
Everybody has a life that they're living, and they're currently going through whatever life stage that they're in. And because I'm not openly saying I've always been involved in politics and this is why, Democrats, this, whatever. I'm not. I'm barely getting into this when Trump went into his, the second term in his election. Um, I just started viewing and watching, like I said, just sitting back, learning and seeing things. And there are things that I didn't agree with. There are things that, okay, I can see his point of view, but I still don't agree. I've never really come out to say, F, FDT.
Hmm.
Not really. But I have my own opinions, which is I don't think he's a good person. I don't think that he's a good person. I see a lot of things that I knew that were going to happen, and I see that he openly says what he plans on doing. He's got a pattern. I watched him, and I see it. Um, but like I said, at the same time, I do watch Fox News, and I see how they interpret his, his reign, his regime. I see how they talk about him
Hmm.
and the issues, the same issues, versus MSNBC or NBC, CNN, whatever, and how they provide the information. And it's really, really different. I don't know if you ever watched both sides.
I got into some political podcasts around like mid 2020 because of COVID and all that. But no, I've never really followed like mainstream news like Fox,
Hmm.
CNN. It's always somebody being like, well, this is what they said, this is what
Yeah,
they said, this is what I read.
based on like pretty much average person's like
Yeah, and
understanding, right?
I watch it kind of passively, so it's not like I'm
Yeah.
claiming to be an expert or anything.
Same here. I mean, I don't either, but I watch so that way I can stay informed in case I do come across somebody that has a conversation and I understand from both sides of what's being said, and see just like I said, look for the patterns and see what the real ground foundation is. That's why I do it. And a lot of times it's really hard for me to watch Fox News because not only do they provide the news, they provide a lot of personal opinions, based on appearances,
Hmm.
or they're so flat out calling people fat and ugly and liars and just really degradable things, versus here's the information, you do what you want with it. You interpret how the way it is. This is what we covered. And that's the kind of information that I like, just because it's just facts, or it's just here's this point, here's this information that you can look into, do your own research, and I do. And when I find out more and more, it's like, okay, well, I can see how they're coming in from this side, but at the same time, this isn't right.
Hmm.
That's how I've been doing a lot of things on my own. So, and I'm actually quite the opposite. I don't listen to that many podcasts. Maybe I think I need to, but it's just kind of hard to base it off on that kind of aspect too, with what you say, because this person said it. This
Hmm.
is what I'm basing it off on. So that's, if I can do that and just kind of compare which side, who's listening more to which side, I can try to just find that common ground to unite us all. That's how I feel about things. It's not about, left or right. It's about moving forward.
Hmm. And you mentioned appearances, that brought me back to a thought I had. I understand why he's kind of rushed Trump is rushing things because he didn't get a lot done
Hmm.
in first term because of the bureaucracy and whatnot. But I also understand that mistakes would be made. But again, the appearances, you should own up to those mistakes. Trying to downplay or hide it comes off as childish.
Can I ask a question when you said that? Because you mentioned Biden earlier too, and how he had made, open the border and all these people to come in. would it be fair to say mistakes were made back then too? Why would it not be okay to say mistakes were made versus saying mistakes were made now?
Because it definitely seems like Biden opened the doors to let them come in, and that's not a mistake.
Okay. Just, I'm trying to
Because
understand that
there's
part
the
too.
whole famous clip that goes around of him saying, "I'm not saying don't come, I'm
Hmm.
saying don't come yet." And you had all the people that had like Biden shirts. When you had those massive caravans coming up, and not saying that's planned,
Hmm.
but it's definitely not a mistake to let all those people in.
Do you remember when Trump started closing the borders in the first time though?
Not too much because what was it, 2016 to 2020? I wasn't really paying attention too much.
Hmm. I mean, openly admit that too. I think a lot of people are in that boat. Nobody was really paying
Hmm.
attention. But under his, when they started saying that they were going to be closing the border, that's actually when a lot of people started coming in. And they started coming in groups, massive groups, talking about like 50, 40 people at a time versus maybe like 10 to 15 that would come the most. That they would come in that many large groups. And that was under Trump's administration. I mean, it was either, hey, we got to hurry up and do this now before they close the border.
Hmm.
And nobody remembers that. It's just really weird for me.
I think 2020 woke a lot of people up with COVID and the
Mhm.
lockdowns. Um,
But you don't remember that?
Not too much, but it's fair to bring up that people came
Hmm.
in doing his stuff, which is why he put so much is trying to build the infrastructure in the wall
That's another issue
to
too for me.
try and secure it better because there's a
Hmm.
lot of open areas. To my understanding, which some of it's if there was something, it's just simple like plank posts,
Hmm.
just very easily step over and stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, definitely call it out, but yeah, yeah, my point is definitely call out anything
Hmm.
you want with Trump. That's why you don't have to agree with him or like him. I just
Hmm.
don't think he's as bad as people claim. Um, but yeah, I think we definitely lack the infrastructure to really keep people out.
Hmm.
And I understand why they would make the mad dash because the door was closing.
Hmm.
I just still don't agree that they should have came over,
Hmm.
do everything legal.
That was definitely a time that I think a lot of people weren't paying attention. But I do remember when Biden did open those borders and everybody was coming in. I do remember hearing a lot of people's concern about they're going to be coming in massive and all this people and all this stuff. And I just at the time remember thinking, well, that would be a good thing because they need help. They're here to get the help. And a lot of people were talking about, oh, they're taking our benefits, they're taking our stuff. At the time, I just still couldn't see that. I couldn't see what people were talking about. The same thing, maybe the way that you don't see how, you don't think he's really that bad. To some people, he is. To you, he's not. Same situation for me in that. To some people, it was really bad. And to me, I didn't see it like that. So I'm still I'm about humanitarian rights and helping others in kindness. So maybe that's why it hinders me from looking from that kind of aspect of trying to intervene and stop that. To say, well, I'm the one that's being affected. I'm the one that's going to be getting less. I I come from a tribe where we are very magnanimous, very generous, and to the point to where if we would give you more and we would take less so that way you're happy and you're satisfied. That's how I grew up. That's how we were raised. And a lot of families out there in Cocopah are like that. We will give you everything, and there would be times where I would have you eat, and I wouldn't eat. That's
Mhm.
how some natives are. So it was hard for me to see that point of view, like, well, they're taking our benefits, they're taking our jobs, they're taking this, they're taking that. It's just kind of hard for me to really see that point. Maybe you can give me some perspective on that.
Well, like I said, I listened to certain podcasts that are like, well, this is how they lied about Trump.
Hmm.
This is how they try to downplay or like use word games against them. So for me, sometimes it's easy just to be like, oh, they're lying about that. but I do try and listen and I actually hear the story before
Mhm.
I do myself kind of just dismiss it. So that's why I might say I don't think he's as bad. You know,
Mhm.
like the whole find people. Have you heard that?
Mhm.
That they claim he said white nationalists and white supremacists will find people. Um, but that's not what he said. He said there were good people on both sides,
Mhm.
but the white supremacists should be condemned. And then they always cut that last part off
Oh, really?
so they can use it and say that he called them fine people. And
And
that's not what he said.
I understand being, edited too.
Hmm.
I can see that
That's like
definitely.
you know,
That's why I always just kind of like stand back and wait a little bit. Just wait
mhm,
until I find out more information. Just let me just wait because I don't want to go out and represent something and get people upset and get people riled up because that's a responsibility too. There really is. When you watch something, you see something, and you go off and you talk to somebody and you say, this is all this, and then you're not even right. And then that person goes off and tells another person, oh, because I heard it from so and so. So I always just try to make sure that I got really good, accurate information before I go out and start promoting it, or
mhm,
before I go out and start saying, this, and that. Um, so I just stand back and wait. And so I wouldn't put it past it. That's what happened. Media is media. And, you just have to be really consistent on what you're expressing and really be adamant about it. And make sure that there are different things and different angles that you can maybe say that first and make it difficult to where the editing is going to be hard, to do.
mhm.
It has to come out.
Yeah, there was a guy, Brandon Stock, I think is his name, that did the walk away movement because that was a moment that woke him up where somebody showed him like, no, they're lying about that.
Hmm.
They cut off the end part. And that's when he switched from more Republican and left the Democratic Party. Um, I don't know the
It works
title. What was it?
differently for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody has, and that's I'm not, like I said, not trying to push anything. All I'm saying is just look for the truth. In the end, it's up to you. In the end, you're the one that's going home with your mind.
Hmm.
It's you that has to make sure that you have the right information and coincides with your heart. If you know inside your heart that this is wrong, then something must be wrong. Try to find out why. If it's not, then maybe look at why is it not wrong for me? That's why I'm here with you today. I want to know from the other side of the aspect. Why do you say that so that way I can try to understand and see how that relates to me? And oh, okay, now I see where you're coming from. Then, and I'm not trying to do it like, tell me why.
Hmm.
Not in that aspect either. It's just for better education for me so I can okay, and respect, and like really fully understand you as an individual. I respect that.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely that's part of the information warfare that's going on. Is that kind of like the what's the old saying? You can take a horse to water, but you can't
Mhm.
make it drink. You can't force people to change their mind even when you lay out all the points as to
Mhm.
why they're wrong because they're so solidified in their worldview or it's a pride thing. Um, but speaking, I know it's not biblical, but to count all the seven sins is the seven virtues,
Mhm.
and to counter gluttony is charity. So I do agree to try and help people more often. But I think again the information warfare. I think you had a decade of, like I said, people saying Trump's Hitler,
Mhm.
um, and what was I gonna go? You had back to Obama. You had a lot of cities that were willing to work with him, and a
Mhm.
lot of things went smoother. But now you have such resistance against them that I don't think it's fair because all he's trying to do is what people would put him in office to do
Mhm.
is to help cut the illegals out.
A lot more
And
too. A lot
everybody
more
does
too.
criticism. You know, I'm not saying you can't criticize.
There's a lot more too. It's not just that. I mean, even during his campaign, they asked, "How are you going to do that?" And he was just very vague and, "Well, we're coming up with a plan. Concepts of an idea, concepts of a plan." And not fully being honest, like this is what we have planned to get the people ready. to get them prepared.
Well, I think that's
And
part of strategy. You don't let
yeah,
people see your
definitely.
cards, see your
But
hand.
this is how, when you do things like that, this is the reaction that you're going to get. So how are you prepared to, go
That is
forward
a
with that?
massive undertaking.
How are you prepared to go forward with that, that resistance? Are you ready for it? Because it could be possible that people are going to resist and stand up against this. They had to have thought about it and what the strategy was going to be for that. You can't just go in and say, well, this is how it's going to be, and then think it's going to be like that. There are
Well, if you're
risks.
was it if you're the authority, and that's kind of how you hope it goes. But like I
Hmm.
said, if you had 10 years of people saying it's Hitler, and I think there's a lot of artificial, like I said, the people who laugh as freedom fighters, they think they're part of the resistance, but really they're part of the problem.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
if you can peaceful protest, but
Hmm.
when you actively get in the way, that is escalating it, and you're no
I
longer a peaceful protester, in my opinion.
That you have a point there, because there is a certain perimeter that needs to be protected if it is an ongoing investigation. If it is a justifiable, judicial warrant that is being served, there does need to be a perimeter out. And when that perimeter is breached, yes, I agree with you that actions need to be taken. However, when it's determined by those said individuals and not approximate, measured out, or it's just however they deem, hey, you're too close, that's it, then I'm going to arrest you. If I'm just standing there recording, that's where you start to balance
Yeah, and
out,
that like you brought up about the aggressiveness, there is
hmm
something to criticize about how aggressive you are towards people.
you
But I
have
think
you
that is
have
also a cultural thing. There is just a lot of resistance in people.
well, you have
You know, if
you
I
have
want to do something, how are you going to tell me not to do it, even though they're just saying back up?
I
And then,
yes, yes.
tensions flare and then you get an
And
altercation.
that's why they brought in the law enforcement, right? To have them come in and talk to the community. Again, that communication needs to be there, um, as far as letting people know that we're going to have this activity going on. Because I mean, if they want to talk about protecting the people, everybody knows that ICE is out there to get the bad guys, the criminals, right?
Hmm.
Not people who have visas, not people who have um, citizenship status based on different programs. However, they are also going after those individuals. So those type of families, those type of communities and neighborhoods are at risk because they don't know what's going on. And I'll give you an example too for myself. This is years ago, probably. I think this might actually been under Trump's administration, where there was activity on the reservation, and I just happened to come out my door. It was about 9 o'clock at night, and seen somebody across the way, with the entranceway. They're on their hands, they're on their knees with their hands behind their head, and you got Border Patrol surrounding them, lights on, guns drawn, and I don't know what the hell's going on. I know that's Border Patrol. I know that they're not like tribal police, but they have a gun drawn on somebody out there on their hands and knees, and there's family. There's like a family there, people there, and I don't know if they're tribal member or not. I don't know if that's my neighbor. I don't know if that's my cousin. I don't know if that's my aunt. I don't know who that is. So I call up my tribal PD, and I'm like, hey, you got Border Patrol at the front entrance way over here. They got guns drawn. There's somebody out there. Where are you guys at? And they get out there and come to find out, it's um, a suspect that Border Patrol was chasing. But at the same time, as a community member, I didn't know that. I just happened to walk out and it was being done in front of my plain view, plain sight. What am I to do as a citizen, as a community member? What would you do? Just stand there and watch?
No, I think that's fair to call on and make sure, because my understanding is relations like that are very delicate and strained, because when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to non-tribal members or residents, tribal cops are limited in what they can do,
Yep.
and same with, regular officers, they're limited what they can do
Mm-hmm.
on tribal land, even when it's non-tribal members.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
it
the
is a very
same
difficult. difficult situation.
But the very
And
same
I don't know
concept.
what the whole context was
Yeah,
of everything
neither
either.
do I, but that's the thing that I don't know. I didn't know, but my first thought was, who is that?
Hmm.
Who is that? Because I didn't know, like I said, if they were my neighbor or
And
my
that
my
also was a
family.
thought earlier too, some of the bureaucracy of trying to talk to everybody, ICE, federal agents,
Hmm.
police. It can get hectic and crazy, which also I think adds to why it takes so long to process people once you get them in,
Hmm.
which does suck. And again, criticize, bring to light anything that happens.
Hmm.
Um,
Then let's get people more educated. Let's get people more qualified. Let's get people more on hands duty to go and work behind those, situations to do the process, to do the paperwork. Where are the lawyers and where are the people that he's sending? He should be sending people to that department to go and work and help out in these situations, like really dire situations where these people are like, hey, if I go back home, I'm dead. Like they're ready to, decapitate me, or they're ready to do this to my family, like those kind of dire situations that we have absolutely no idea or clue about, which one would, would they want to come here. It's different, nobody knows. So where is the help and aid in that part? I haven't seen it, I haven't heard it, but we've had a definite increase in budgeting for ICE agents to hire on, to get trained for their 47 days, and to go out there and be paid to do what they're going to do. Why cannot we use that money to train people to go do really fruitful jobs that's going to help individuals and families get the right process and documentation going?
I don't know, other than just more bureaucracy
Hmm.
keeps them, from doing things in a timely manner.
Hmm. And I say that because, I mean, look at the rate for murdered missing indigenous women, and some two people just recently just barely made that connection to say, oh, well, it's the illegals that are running the drug, the human trafficking, and they're doing this and doing that. And I've been patiently waiting for somebody to say, to make that kind of connection, because if that was the truth, if that was really true in the case, then, you know, it would have blown up a long time ago. Murdered missing indigenous women movement has been going on for, several years now. Some prior to 2015, before that. So it's just, come on now, the Native people are rising. The Native people are becoming conscious of what's going on by this administration. And I refer to the administration, I don't necessarily refer to Trump, but to this administration, what they are doing, they are attacking Indian country by, like I said, with the ICE agents, questioning our citizenship, detaining Native Americans, which they have absolutely no right to do, but they have been detained. They've been questioned, have our IDs thrown back at us saying that they're fake. Um, Oak Flat is under attack for the mining that Trump allowed because he wants to do drill baby drill on native and sovereign lands. Then they want to get mad about a protester going into a church and, protesting there. And they're saying that we want to protect religious and freedom rights, and anybody who attacks that, we're going to go after you. Yet they're attacking the Apache San Carlos tribe with the foreign mining on Oak Flat, which is a ceremonial religious site for them to go through their rites of passage for the women, attack against women and the youth there. So there's a lot of things that I have issues with this administration. Not necessarily maybe like people are saying, oh, like I said, FDT. Yeah, but at the same time, let me be on a level to where where you guys can see why I'm saying this, and not just because I don't like him, and not just because I don't agree with him, but actual face, facts where it starts to affect me and my people and my fellow Native American brothers and sisters. That's why, I stand up against it. I stand up against this administration. That big, beautiful bill is going to allow 92 plus miles more built to that wall. That's going to go on to Kokopah tribal land. That's going to go towards Tohono O'odham land. That's going to go across other nations, tribal nations across their land. You know, when is it going to stop? When is enough attack on Indian country going to stop? The AI database, data places that they want to build in communities. they want to build on tribal lands too. That's going to deplete our water. That's going
Yeah,
to
that's
take away
a
from the
big thing
water.
with a
It
lot of
is.
people, which I don't agree. And same with the fracking. I don't agree with
Mm-hmm.
that. But if you're referring to what happened with Don Lemon, my understand is that he and some of the other people violated the FACE Act that came from the 90s because there was all tensions with abortion clinics.
Mm-hmm.
So they wrote the bill saying you can't stop women from using their reproductive rights.
Mm-hmm.
And so they added in to help the bill get passed to make the conservatives happy that they added that about you can't do the same thing with a church. You can't stop people from
Mm-hmm.
respectfully exercising their rights to religion, which is what
Mm-hmm.
he did.
And
He
that's
interrupted a church service.
what's going to be happening with that Oak Flat because it is a church service. That is a ceremonial rite. There is a process that they do that they have there at the water base there, and by mining, that's going to come in and interfere with all of that.
Hmm.
And that's how can you promote one thing because it affects you and your religion and what you believe in, but because you don't believe in this process, you don't have a respect for this tradition, that it doesn't count. That's the image that's being portrayed by this administration.
Hmm.
So it's a lot that I have against this specific administration
Hmm.
now because I am awake, I'm conscious, I am aware of what's taking place. And I wasn't before. I admit that. No, I wasn't equally um, outraged during all those times going on because, like you said before, you were distracted. I was too. I was taking care of, my family of five, and taking care of other, family units at the time. Life, right? But now that is starting to overflow into my daily life, into my daily living, I have to pay attention. I have to realize what's going on around my surroundings because I have no one there to protect me but myself. And that's how everybody should be looking at things. Oh, I'm not a political person. Well, you should be because it's your responsibility. You have a responsibility as a United States citizen, which a lot of people don't even realize that they have responsibilities by doing so, by being one. It is your responsibility to be aware of what's going on in your community. It is your responsibility to get involved and to vote, to make your voices heard, and and to be there for your fellow people. I didn't know that until I just started recently finding out what is it going to take to get these people nationalized, or what are they going to, what does it take to get them through that process? So I looked it up. What does it mean to be a United States citizen? Boom, right there. And it's just people don't realize, we're just so caught up in living how the way we're living on a daily basis, we take things for granted.
Hmm.
So I think that's where a lot of people are at right now.
Yeah, there was I had a there's a podcast I listened to called the Lower Lodge,
Hmm.
and he's done a couple well he's done a massive amount of videos about missing persons with a lot of the connection with like David Paulides and the Missing 411. I think there's a couple he's done on the indigenous women
Hmm.
going missing. But yeah, that's something I never agreed with Trump about taking the land for the oil and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I think it was a history buff channel talking about how accurate Dancer's Rules was because there was a segment about natives at the end. Well, that was something that happened with Obama too. They were
Hmm.
protesting about a pipeline. He stopped it, but then Trump brought it back,
Hmm.
and that was a whole big thing too. It's like why can't you move it up a little bit or change the route? Why does it have to go through there?
Hmm.
I do remember something about there was a river involved,
Hmm.
which could have made it harder to maintain it
Yep.
for structural integrity. But that was something I brought up in our conversations. I understand that the whole United States is not yours anymore, but any land that we I don't want to say gave, but that has been treated and have been set should be kept.
Hmm.
And I never agree with that in history that everything kept getting smaller and smaller.
Hmm.
But every country has blood and stains on it. nobody's really done a perfect job.
And that's the thing too that's starting to become an issue now. Now that this administration is also removing those kind of histories that make how America
Hmm.
the way it is, because it shows a bad lighting on how the way America became America. But you know, and that's what this administration is removing the DEI, removing all that information. And did you know that that also included all the Native Americans that served in the military? The removal of DEI also removed the history of the Native Americans that served. So the history about the Navajo Code Talkers, the history about Ira Hayes, all that history that have deal with Native Americans and how they protected this country, gone,
Hmm.
trying to be hidden away. They were removed. They attempted to remove all 22 flags at the Veterans Office in Phoenix, and Governor Hobbs was the one that saved them all. 22 flags that represent the tribes in Arizona removed because of DEI.
See, I think that's a bit of an extreme because I don't agree with DEI.
Hmm.
I think if you're being picked because of your race and not qualifications, that is
But
kind of
where is that?
racist.
Where is that even proven? Where is that even proven at? I know that I've filled out applications before, and on the back it always says optional. Like, are you this? Are you that? Are you this? And I've always never crossed it out because I never felt comfortable stating that I was
Mhm.
Native American or this because of that. I didn't feel comfortable, so I never filled it out. Is that what you're referencing to?
No, it was what a lot of people would call the woke push. That's saying if you don't have more people of color, you're racist. So we should just force people to put more people of color
I've
in
never heard of
positions of
that
power.
before.
Yeah, there was a whole big thing with Charlie Kirk saying they were trying to use it to call him racist, but his point was if you're forcing companies to take lower quality people so you can boost racial numbers, you kind of make people racist because then you look at them and you think to yourself, is this person really qualified?
So with that being said, could that same aspect and mindset could that be applied for ICE agents
About not having enough people or forcing people into it.
by not having enough people? Because with that way of mindset, that just kind of made me think about, is that why ICE agents are acting the way they're acting? Because they just need to meet that quota. If it's an expectation, like you're saying, that they have to have a certain amount of number to get qualified, to get hired, or to keep operating, that's what they're doing, that they're just taking
Well,
people.
I thought Trump had pushed back on a lot of that, but that kind of line of thinking, I don't know. I think quotas are bad.
But would
So
you
I think
do
if
you
you,
kind of see that? I don't know. You just said that and it just kind of like popped in my head. Well, wouldn't that same analogy or the same method or way of reasoning thinking apply to how the way ICE is working now then?
I would say only if they are trying, like I said, trying to put more, boost their numbers and how many, black
People they can get
officers they
out,
have, how
right?
many um, Hispanics, how many other people that non-white. If they're trying to boost that numbers that way to look good, I'm against it. They, take it whoever wants to come, but you shouldn't
Hmm.
have to boost your numbers so you don't get called racist.
Hmm.
Because that leads you into a racist policy of we need more people of color in, I
Hmm.
feel like.
Okay, I
Um,
can I can
but
like
I think the
see
whole
where you're
idea
coming
of
from.
quotas is bad, even with cops just doing tickets, because then you have to,
They got the end of
you're
the month.
actively looking for that kind of things to meet it. But another thing, if I got to mention, they're all stories out of Minnesota with a lot of detentions of people going around
Hmm.
asking to see papers to put so you can prove you're not ICE.
Hmm.
And I think that's, again, coming back the other way of you have that kind of extremism too.
Hmm.
If you're gonna call out the Trump for and the ICE for wanting papers, you should call them out. But I don't know how many people you have heard that story of them getting doxxed, people writing down
I see, yeah,
the
that's
license plates and
crazy. I really
stuff.
do see that. That's like pretty extreme. I'm not one person to do that, to dox people. Um, but I wouldn't know how.
Like I
It's
said, I
just
just,
out of my scope of area, but
The best you can do is just to kind of call out and criticize and give
Mhm.
your point of view. I feel like. But then again, it comes to if you make a mistake, you should own up. The Not just the Trump administration, I would say probably previous ones
Mhm. And
always
that's
just try
fine.
to downplay and be like, oh, it's not that bad.
And you know what? And you have a really good point. And I've been saying this a lot recently too. People are very quick to provide a justification for their actions first, rather than to openly admit that they did something wrong. And I've noticed that with a lot of different people in a lot of different situations. And people are so they are quick. Well, I didn't know this, or, well, that person told me this, and I'm basing it off of this. It's not like, oh shit, like, oops, sorry, my bad. I didn't mean to, or, I apologize. Let me look into this. Let me try and see. Let me find out more. It's very quick defend myself. And this is why I did it. There's no point of trying to just be human and say, oh, well, I messed up.
Yeah, like what was the one shooting at Alex, I forget his name. Was it Penny?
Pretty?
Petty? Some people had said that if you slow down the video, there was a shot before the officer shoots him, and the gun he had is I think it's SIG, and they
Mm-hmm.
were very prone to misfiring.
Mm-hmm.
So that seemed just like a very tragic accident of too many people handling a gun known to go off. And even the company they blame it on the people that they mishandle it or they host to it wrong because they don't want to take responsibility that they made a halting gun. So
Well, because it's
it's
a
a
big thing.
issue,
Yeah,
and so I just think it's a series of unfortunate events.
it is. But then when you're in that position as an officer of the law, you have an understanding that you're going to be facing those kind of things based
Hmm.
on this is something that you want to do. It's not like, oh, I just got hired on and then, next day, here you go.
And I think that plays
But
into
that's how it is
inexperience in a
now.
sense of combat.
When you're
Too many shaky people.
a law enforcement, you get training even with the fire academy. Firefighters, they do the same
Oh,
training.
I think we are about an hour in.
Oh, okay.
Not to rush you, I was just
Okay.
checking.
But I'm saying, they have all these trainings and methods within months' time because you have to be sure that you're going to fulfill that job duty to a T. There's a level of expectation, a level of excellent to commitment, for the people. That you lose your sense of identity. You're no longer who you are when you put on that badge. You are the company and department that you represent, and that you have to look good for that said company and uphold the laws and integrity that they have. You're a representation of that. So, how can you do that and say that, oh yeah, these are ICE and we're going to get all the bad people out. That's a big responsibility to uphold. And they're just giving it to people who are just, oh yeah, 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 like maybe people who didn't pass the academy, maybe people who didn't go through the psychological evaluations or proper training that they need to get.
Hmm.
Um, was that an accurate number of people to surround a person like that? And when that other officer came by and shoved that woman down, was that appropriate? Were they setting up a perimeter? There's supposed to be certain things like announcing yourself when you enter a room, giving out orders and directions to get back. If they don't get back, then like get back and you give them a warning, or I'm gonna pepper spray you. Get back, or I'm gonna pull my gun. Get back, and have that certain tone in your voice that you mean business. There's a way that you conduct yourself when you do that. And if it's still to that point, then you give that fair warning. You don't just go over there and just go and shove people.
Hmm. I don't agree
You
with
don't
that.
you
Even with
don't do
people to
that.
people, yeah, you can fall and hit your head. That's why they say any
It's a
fight you can
liability,
avoid is a fight.
definitely.
Wait, what was
And
it?
they have to
Any fight you can win is a fight you can avoid. Avoid.
Yes, that's true. And that, they have to write a report on those. Are they writing reports? Are they providing daily documents of what they're going through and what they're experiencing, like law enforcement, officers do? I don't know that. Does anybody know that?
I thought for the two recent ones, Good and Penny, that they did
But that's
do an
because
internal investigation like they always do, but I think
I'm talking, yeah.
there are some people who are just gonna ignore it because of their ideology,
But any
their
like
biases.
incidences with these officers, because at the end of the day, they have to go to a desk and
Hmm.
debrief. At the end of the day, they go home and do that, or they sit and do that. Are they writing the reports and incidents that they did that day? Are they keeping track of the people that they've detained? Are they doing the proper due process of how this is supposed to go? If this is how the way they're acting out in the streets, what are they doing behind closed doors when it involves paperwork?
Which is a fair criticism. I think they're supposed to, but the bureaucracy, I'm sure, is a nightmare just for any administration to do anything.
But with the police department and FBI and all these different departments that have been running so smoothly already without any of this causing chaos prior before, and then like I said, here comes ICE agency coming in and just throwing the table up, and just disrupting everybody. The actions and tactics that they're doing is disrupting and affecting everyone, no matter what department it is. They're going to school grounds, they're going to restaurants, they're going, into places and public places where it is affecting people on a daily life,
Hmm.
and that's what a lot of people they don't like because it's change. It's uncomfortable for them. It's scary for them because, like I said, in that situation, you don't know what's going on. And so, how do you adjust to that kind of living situation in all these communities? That's why we go out there and we protest to tell people that we agree with you, we're there for you, we stand in resilience with you because you're not alone. We're scared too. We don't know what's happening. We
Hmm.
don't know what's going on because nobody's communicating with us, nobody's saying anything. And all of a sudden, it's just our lives are being disrupted by this administration. It's just that point of view and that perspective where we're trying to understand why, and everybody's just saying because of Biden, because of this, and it's just a lot of trauma dumping. Give us a time to process what the hell's going on for those who weren't paying attention, to those who weren't aware of what was happening on a daily basis. And now, like I said, now it's starting to flood into their their life to where they're forced to see what's going on. That's that's where I'm coming from.
Which is fair, but
Mm-hmm.
like
Because not everybody knows
there's also
everything.
you have to take a look at the other side too. Um,
Definitely.
like I said, I do think that there's a lot of people lobbying, but there are a lot of people there. It's
Just be
smaller
cautious.
group that they want the revolution. They don't care about the cause. They just want the revolution.
Sometimes
And I think
and
those are the
sometimes
aggravators that are painting everyone else in bad pictures, bad lights.
yeah, same thing, but it also depends too. Like, I believe in those people as well because it has to come to a point where it does push comes to shove, right? And it's the same aspect maybe where this administration is taking. Like, they're done with it. They need to get this. They need to get all the illegals out. They need to do this. They need to get it done now. So that's why they're going full with all this force, and not a lot of people are liking it. But the ones that are standing up and saying, no, this is wrong because you're just taking everyone now based on just on color of skin, based off of this. We understand that you have a job to do. You're supposed to go after the hard criminals. But some of those people that you're rallying up aren't. That's what we're questioning. That's what we have like, wait a minute, we'll let you do your job, but not in this way to where it's starting to hurt people,
Mhm.
to where it's starting to kill people. Or sorry, I don't know if you can say that anymore. Unalive?
I
I don't know.
try to, but it's not like I make a lot of money off of it, so
Okay. I
I'm
don't
not
know.
worried about getting counseled about using the wrong wordage.
So many things that I just try to abide by and be aware of. It's just, it's overwhelming too.
Hmm.
It really is. Trying to just live amongst other people and be comfortable with who you are, as an individual, as yourself, without being targeted. And already for me, it's a hard target because I'm Native. I'm a Native
Hmm.
American woman. We're 10 to 12 times more likely to go missing and have our cases go unsolved and looked at for years. And that puts me as a target. Now I'm at an even bigger target because of the color of my skin, because I'm Native. I'm
That
going to
that
be
was a point
questioned.
they brought up in the lower lodge that trying to deal with the Canadian government and the Mounties is just a nightmare too.
Hmm.
So it's not just the U.S.
Yeah, it's not. And that's the point, like,
But Canada's
where's it
so
going to
big and
start? When
vast.
is
It's
it going to
a
stop?
lot less population too.
It just doesn't, there's a point in time when someone says, this isn't right. and it's going to come for time for everyone. For those people that are leading the revolution, for those people that are leading it with um, that extremism, for them, they're at that point. You have to be able to understand where they're coming from too. You're right, like I said, from a law point of view and a citizen's point of view, I can see where you're coming from, where it starts to affect the officer's safety. That too.
Mhm.
I get that. And, there are people, when I go out and protest, I tell them, your safety comes first. Your safety comes first, and don't agitate people that go by, flip off their finger, they go by, they yell profanities, don't respond back because you don't know what they're capable of. They're very capable of a lot of things. I've seen them throw water bottles at people, at us. Uh, they've thrown things at us. They've yelled things. I've been called a terrorist. I've been called anti-terror, anti-American. I've been called a lot of things that I'm not. But I stand out there raising awareness for murdered, missing Indigenous women, and I'm called everything in the book, and they don't want to listen and take the time to come out and say, what's your sign about? What are you talking about? It doesn't happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of stubborn people on both sides that don't want to listen.
Mhm.
'Cause it what's the Star Wars quote? If you're not with us, you're against us kind of mentality.
Mhm. I'm not like that.
Hmm.
I wish you care. I would really wish that you would care about this because
And
I don't do this, I do this before it happens. I do this not when it happens. A lot of people do that. I care about it and try to do everything I can to prevent it from happening, just in case it does, happen here.
Mhm.
You have to be
And
prepared.
I think that's part of the larger picture you have to view because you have to look at all the stuff that happened on the Biden, well, technically on the Trump leading into Biden with like the Summer of Love, all the George Floyd riots. There was the incident at the White House where he had to go into the bunker
Hmm.
because people were trying to storm the gates, and then Biden um, seeming more relaxed on some of that. I think a lot of people got more bolden to push back, but they were dealing with like riot police, and these are
Hmm.
federal agents. Their job isn't to control people, they're to get the job done.
Hmm.
So I think there's that you're stepping into a different arena, and people need to understand. Again, not saying you can't protest, but if
Hmm.
you're pushing back,
There are going to
these
be
aren't real, yeah,
consequences.
these
Yeah.
aren't the people whose job is to push back. They're just going to get the job done. And I think that's played into the when they good because I think it was the partner said something about why are you using real bullets, and it's
Hmm.
like the federal agents are gonna have live rounds on them.
Hmm.
Not that white cops don't, but they're trying to calm people down and not, you know, necessarily react lethally. Even though you can argue about what is considered a non-lethal,
Hmm.
lethal. People bring that up with tasers and stuff.
The way I was trained, or way that I had aspect on it, is that use, you know, you level up depending on the situation. Because every time you draw your gun, you have to, write a report on it. You have to be investigated. And especially if you shoot, that's different protocols. And that's another thing that, well, is that they're so different from what we're told or what we're exposed to as for police officers versus an ICE agent. And if that's the case, then where's the knowledge behind it? So that way we know better and know, like, oh shit, now we're facing felony charges of, or whatever the situation, however it occurs. It's just having that education and knowledge and knowing how to, tackle it.
Yeah.
But, I'm not disagreeing with you. You're right. Federal agents, the consequences are going to be um, definitely heavier versus, misdemeanor charges. There is a point to where you have to be able just to be peaceful and make your message across. Because if you get angry about it, you start losing the focus. You start losing the point of what your message that you're carrying.
Mhm.
So I'm
I
trying
think that
to,
social media plays a part in it too.
it's
A lot of
definitely,
the
yeah.
algorithms they push things that are gonna make you more angry than happy, and So it
And in
it
that
brings more light to things and people get more angry.
in that kind of aspect, and what are the community, what are the leaders doing? If you have that information, knowing that this is how it's happening, what are you doing to help those people to get through it then?
Hmm.
That's why you look at your grassroots groups. They have community prayer. You have your church people to go and talk to. You have, leadership that's supposed to come down and say and mingle with the community and say, we understand what's going on. We understand your fears, but you don't have to worry about it here because this is what's happening. We were ready to take the necessary steps to ensure that our neighborhoods are going to be, you know, um, safe. Where is that? That's, where a lot of people are stepping in at these protests and saying we have to face this with love. We have to face this with understanding and in hopes that we can come together with a solution that we can all, work together.
Hmm.
Um, Everything from inflation to immigration to the wall to MMIW, the fraudulent sober living homes to Oak Flat, LGBTQ rights, all of it, everything that we've come accustomed to growing to accepting is now trying to, be reversed, and they're trying to have us deny it. So it's really hard for us to adapt to this kind of level of expectation with how they want America to be.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I've seen it be to where we didn't have as many rights, and then for the LGBTQ community, and the prejudice, racism behind that. And I say that because we have two-spirit in our community members too. So I represent them when they have their pride walks out here because I want them to feel safe and accepted and loved. Doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
Everybody does. And we're only able to do that if we're able to understand how that needs to be met by saying this is a safe place, by giving you that respect, and okay, don't shove it down my throat like some people say, right? Like I can get that point of view too. If that's how the way you want to be, I respect that, but it's not who I am. And I'm not, I hope that you don't expect me to try to be like you because that's not me. I'm
Hmm.
not going to try to make you be part of my culture. I can share what, what my culture is and who I am, but I'm not asking you to be me. And if you're willing to listen to my side of the story, I'm willing to tell you. So, there's a line there where I like feel like no, taking it too far. There's a respect there, but again, the communication, knowing individuals, talking to them, being open-minded. Some people they don't want to, and that's okay. Um, I've started thinking a bit like I wanted to get into community gardening, and I started comparing what I do when I speak to people. When you talk to people about these issues, it's like planting seeds, right?
Hmm.
You throw your seeds out there, and who is ever willing to listen and take it in, the plant, the seeds, they start to grow, and then they start forming, and it goes out, with the message that you carry. For me, it was with the message of the MMIW movement, letting people know about the turquoise alert, letting people know about, the late Emily Pike and all the other families that have been affected by the lack of um, investigating officers on these cases.
Hmm.
So when I do that, I'm able to tell people about it, and if they say, "Well, it's because of your reservation, it's because of your police, it's because of this, it's because of that," I know that the surface on their mind is hard, and my seed probably just went punk,
Yeah.
just drove off the other way. Am I gonna stand there and keep throwing seeds at the same spot, and it's gonna keep bouncing off? Or am I going to try to till the ground? And by tilling the ground, I'm going to see if I can do it that way. By meaning, I'm going to come at a different angle at you then. Well, try looking at it from this perspective. Like I talked to you about, Oak Flat, but the religion. And I talked to you about, the wall coming onto my land, letting you know it's not about Trump, it's about the administration and the actions and the course that they're going. That's what I'm against. And for you to sit back and listen, like, okay, the ground's tilling, the ground is loosening up,
Hmm.
and that's good. and I'll plant my seed there. And whether or not you choose to further your education by looking into MMIW, by looking into Oak Flat, by looking into the fraudulent sober living homes, and really seeing how it's affecting other nationalities, how it's affecting other communities, then that's the water taking place. That's the water and the nourishing that you're giving yourself with that seed that I planted within you. And whether you choose to let it grow, that's completely up to you. You can water it and be like, it's not worth my time. I'm just gonna, and then it'll just sit there. But then you'll also start to notice that if it's there, you'll see other plants or other sprouts growing around you to where, hey, you know what? I know what that person's talking about because I have the seed right here. Whether you choose to take that watering can and do it, to water your plant and grow with it and then start making your own movements to try to help this cause, then that's when you start being more fruitful. But I'm not going to be doing that to people if the surface is too hard and the seeds that I throw aren't going anywhere.
Mm.
That's okay because maybe that part of the land isn't meant for me to be planting seeds, and that's okay. It's meant for something else. It's meant to be the stepping, that's the ground to step on and to move forward and to walk away from. That's fine. It's okay. Because in a lawn, you'll see areas where patches are, but there's still grass around it, right?
Yeah.
So either way, there'll still be seeds of information surrounding that person.
Yeah, final thoughts. I meant to mention about the wall like that.
Mm-hmm.
It does suck to have to go on to the native land. Like I don't know how far they would expect past the U.S. border into Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just generally want to keep the U.S. safe, we do have to secure it in some way. I just hope the proper communications happen and everyone's happy with the end result.
Mm-hmm. Me too. It's all about coming together with a solution. But I know that the land that the wall does go through will, affect the things that we use on a daily basis for our ceremonial purposes and to respect to the people and the land and history. You know, would you be able to put a wall through your Arlington Cemetery with all your veterans? Would you put a wall through that?
No.
You know, think of it that way. Would you put a wall through um, something that you hold sacred and dear that belongs to you to say, well, this is for your protection and for the country's protection?
Mhm.
It's, a different perspective that you have to really look at. How is it affecting it? And that's what I bring to the table. That's what I try
Yeah,
to
and if
shine
you
light
can't
on.
physically build something, you have to put then the manpower there to secure it, because then it
Hmm.
becomes a weak spot if people are looking to exploit it. As we're trying to wrap down, do you have any comments or anything about?
Make sure you are registered to vote. Every voice counts. If you are registered to vote, double check my.arizona.vote and just double check and see if you are because that's where it matters. You're a U.S. citizen. It is your responsibility to partake in that. If you support ICE, then make sure you're registered to vote. If you're against ICE, make sure you're registered to vote. You have a voice and opinion to say where that money is going, your actions. Get your people who represent your district signed on. Make sure you sign their petitions. It is your responsibility to stay informed. So that's the last thing.
No problem. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching, listening. Hope you guys were entertained. Thank you.